I want you to imagine, just for a second, waking up tomorrow morning.
Okay, I'm with you.
So you stretch, you walk over to the mirror and you look at your reflection, but you quickly realize something fundamental about your existence has just vanished.
Oh, wow. Like what?
Well, you are no longer considered a person. Like that word, that entire concept of having an individual sovereign identity, it barely holds any meaning in this world anymore.
That is deeply unsettling right off the bat.
Right. And it gets crazier because you look down and realize the very biology you take for granted is just gone. Men and women, entirely extinct.
Just wiped out completely.
Exactly. Instead, you belong to a society of physically androgynous beings. You wake up, assess your mood, and decide to simply put on a penis or a vagina for the day. Like literally, much like you would choose a jacket or, a pair of shoes before heading out the door.
Man, it really forces you to completely reevaluate the architecture of human
Oh,
existence.
100%.
I mean, when you strip away biological determinism, personal identity, and traditional gender paradigms, you're left looking at this raw, somewhat terrifying machinery of how a society organizes itself when the concept of the individual is just dead.
Yeah, and that is exactly where we're going for today's deep dive. So let's unpack this. We are examining excerpts from a profoundly surreal and futuristic text titled Togethers and the Rules of Happy Sexy Sex.
Quite the title.
Right. Specifically, we're diving into Chapter 1, which is narrated by a being named Ayers. That's spelled I-R-E-S, pronounced Iris. And the chapter carries a very specific, almost unsettling title. It's called We of the Together Group Talked.
That title alone acts as a warning label for the degraded syntax and the collective mindset we're about to explore.
It really does.
It immediately establishes that the I has been completely subsumed by the we.
So our mission today is to decode this bizarre text for you. We need to understand the anatomy, the sociology, and honestly, the surprisingly dark rules governing this highly regulated post-gender reality set in the year 2148.
Right, because 2148 is a totally different landscape.
Yeah, so to do that, we have to establish the baseline of Iris's world. So these beings are physically androgynous females. They possess hips, but natively they are born with zero reproductive organs.
So no vaginal parts, no breasts, no penises.
Exactly. Nothing. And as we mentioned, they aren't persons in the way you or I understand the word. They throw the word around occasionally, sure, but it's a phantom term.
Which brings up the immediate logistical challenge of this society. If you lack individual personhood, you lack an internal center of gravity.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
Well, you need an external structure to anchor your existence. You can't just be alone. The text reveals that this society solves the problem of the self by completely eradicating isolation. It's like you do not exist alone. You exist as a together group.
It functions like this extreme mandatory buddy system. The text notes that being alone is considered inherently sad.
Right, it's pitiful to them.
Yeah, and even triads, like groups of 3, are incredibly rare. You are designed to be a pair. Your entire purpose, your psychological safety, is totally wrapped up in this codependent unit.
Think about the immense burden of modern individualism you experience today. The constant pressure to define yourself.
Like building a personal brand, figuring out your unique path, all that exhausting stuff.
Exactly. In 2148, they have entirely eliminated that exhaustion. They traded the burden of individual identity for the psychological safety of an assigned dyad.
Wow.
You never have to figure out who you are because you are simply half of it together.
That's a wild trade-off.
Yeah.
And the narrative introduces us to this dynamic on June 13th, 2148. Ayers and their together partner, Ivy, are going on a double date.
A double date in a post-gender world.
Yeah, so Ayers is paired up with Elliot, who is described as a smarty shirt who knows a lot about paintings. And Ivy is set up with Shia, whose main defining trait seems to be a passion for eating yummy fruit.
Eating yummy fruit, it's so simplistic.
Right, it paints this incredibly pastoral, simple picture of life.
It feels idyllic on the surface, sure, but the cracks show up almost immediately in their conversation.
Yes, this is the part that really gave me pause. So they're chatting, and Shia casually brings up the extinction of binary gender. Shia states, "There is no more man, and all man is gone."
Which you'd think would be a neutral fact to them.
Right, but Ivy's reaction is not one of utopian peace. The text explicitly says Ivy was madded that woman is all gone and lost forever. Ayers actually has to intervene to comfort Ivy.
Soothing them, right?
Yeah, saying it's okay that women and men are no longer spotted. But, I mean, if society naturally evolved past gender to achieve some enlightened neutrality, you wouldn't expect one of them to get furious and actively mourn the loss of the concept of woman.
Exactly. It feels less like an evolution and more like a traumatic amputation.
A traumatic amputation, that's a great way to put it.
And when you look closely at the language they're using, that amputation becomes undeniable. Just listen to the vocabulary you mentioned, where it's like setted, matted, good-looky, smarty shirt.
Sound like toddlers talking.
Right. We are not just looking at futuristic slang here. We are looking at a deliberate, systemic regression of language.
Wait, really? Like, on purpose?
Yes. If we draw a parallel to George Orwell's concept of Newspeak in 1984, the whole goal of shrinking a vocabulary is to shrink the capacity for complex thought.
Oh, wow. So you literally can't rebel if you don't have the words for it.
Exactly. In 2148, the language is kept almost infantile so that rebellion remains cognitively impossible. They clearly feel the phantom limb of the gender binary.
Like Ivy getting mad about women being gone.
Yes. Ivy feels the loss of woman, but Ivy lacks the linguistic sophistication to articulate that grief. They're trapped clinging to these historical concepts like lost mythology, knowing they miss them, but totally unable to understand why.
Think about the sheer cognitive dissonance that creates. You have this deliberately stunted vocabulary, restricting your ability to express complex emotions, but at the exact same time, you are given absolute literal control over your physical body.
It's a huge paradox.
It is, because the narrative moves from this psychological conversation straight into physical intimacy, and it operates on a completely modular level.
It's the ultimate separation of biology from destiny.
Right, so the four of them decide to engage in what they call sexy sex, which Ayers casually notes is the best part of sex time.
As opposed to regular sex time, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. But because they lack inherent sex organs, they literally pull them out and put them on.
Like biological Lego pieces.
Exactly like that. Elliot attaches a vagina. Ivy and Shia decide to try penises for the session. Ayers chooses a vagina, and Shia tacks on some bigger breasts just for good measure.
It's just wild.
Think about how you curate your identity online today, right? Like changing your avatar, updating your bio, or buying a new skin for a character in a video game based purely on your mood that afternoon.
Sure, we do that all the time digitally.
In 2148, they have taken that digital behavior and applied it literally to human flesh.
By turning physical sex organs into fashion accessories, they have completely gamified biology.
Gamified biology, wow.
Yeah, because today, we view our physical bodies as the immutable vessel of our identity. But in this world, the body is just a blank canvas, and biology is a temporary aesthetic choice.
It sounds like ultimate freedom, in a way.
It is a radical form of bodily autonomy. But it comes with a fascinating contradiction when you look at how they actually choose to use that freedom.
Okay, so the mechanics of the act itself are described as very mechanical, very modular, but deeply joyful for them. They're swapping interactions, trying out different configurations.
Having a grand old time.
Right. But right in the middle of this gamified physical free-for-all, Ivy calls a timeout.
A timeout during sex.
Yes, Ivy literally stops the group activity to ask for a minute for happy, better kisses on Ayers' puffy lips.
Which serves as a stark contrast to the rest of the scene. I mean, amidst this modular swapping of detached genitals, Ivy actively seeks out traditional facial intimacy.
It's almost sweet in a weird way.
It really is. It suggests that while the mechanics of sex have been completely commodified and detached from emotion, the innate human need for romantic grounding, for genuine connection, it still survives in these small subversive moments, like a kiss.
And that desire for grounding leads directly into the bus ride home, which provides the real philosophical payoff to this whole biological Mr. Potato Head setup.
Oh, this part is fascinating.
So Ivy leans on Ayers and asks, "Why do you like to wear a vagina and breasts?" And Ayers responds very simply. Ayers says, "I like to feel like a sexy today, like all days."
It's simple enough.
But Ivy's response is the crucial piece of this puzzle. Ivy looks out the window and says, "I guess maybe I want a woman next time."
Using woman as a verb.
Wait, let me rephrase that. Using it as an action really highlights the core paradox of their existence.
How so?
Well, they have infinite physical choices. They can build any anatomical combination imaginable, but instead of creating something entirely new, they use these modular parts to role-play the very binary genders they claim are extinct.
Oh, wow, yeah.
They are pantomiming a history they don't even fully understand.
It is the illusion of progression. They believe they have moved beyond the binary, but they are perpetually acting out the ghosts of that exact system.
That is so eerie.
It is. Because if you give someone total freedom of expression, but you have already stunted their cognitive ability to imagine anything outside of the approved parameters, well, that physical freedom is meaningless.
Which begs the question, if you have all this physical freedom to feel sexy but a deliberately restricted mind, there has to be immense repressed anxiety, right? Like, where does all that tension go?
Oh, it goes somewhere very dark.
The text answers that by jumping the timeline forward 2 months to August 29th, 2148, and it shows us the terrifying social rules that keep the society from just collapsing under its own psychological weight.
The transition from total physical freedom to violent behavioral restriction is really jarring. But mathematically, it's necessary for a society built this way.
So, Ayers and Ivy are heading out on a mountain hike with another Together group. These are friends named Drew and Trace. Before they even hit the trail, they have a conversation about the concept of rules.
A casual chat about rules.
Yeah, Ayers casually states that no rules is often lonely. And Ivy follows up with this incredibly chilling phrase. Ivy says, rules do a good of liver.
Okay, to translate that degraded syntax for a second, rules deliver good, or rules keep the liver, meaning the life functioning.
Wow, okay.
We are looking at the mechanics of absolute authoritarian control here. How does a state get its citizens to joyfully chant the very chains that bind them?
By making them think they need them to survive.
Exactly, by equating the rules with existence itself. If you remove the concept of the individual person, there is no internal moral compass. The rules become the only gravity keeping them from floating off into the void of non-existence.
So they head up the mountain. The sky is stunning. The setting is super peaceful. Drew spots a snow foxter, which, by the way, sounds like some sort of genetically modified, adorable snow fox.
Sounds cute.
It does. But the idyllic atmosphere shatters instantly. Trace becomes aggressively jealous. Trace puts an arm on Drew, glares at Ayers, and demands to know if Ivy is a nicey.
And we should note the term nicey functions as a probe here. Trace is attempting to breach the rigid boundaries of the assigned together groups.
Testing the waters, basically.
Right, testing to see if Ivy is sexually or romantically available outside of the designated pairing with Ayers, which is a huge taboo.
Ayers shuts it down immediately and fiercely. Ayers just declares, Ivy is on date times er.
Which is a clear territorial defense, like, back off, Ivy is spoken for.
Tracy seems to accept the rejection and walks away, but then the ultimate transgression occurs.
The inciting incident.
Yeah, Ayers simply stops walking, lies down on the ground, and falls asleep.
An action that, to us, seems like a benign, perhaps slightly bizarre display of fatigue.
Right. But looking at the absolute meltdown that follows, it seems like a massive overreaction. Because what happens next is Trace walks over and violently hits Ayers in the face.
A physical assault.
Yes. And immediately, Ivy and Drew start screaming, "No! Stop! Pee!" at the top of their lungs. Drew just collapses and starts sobbing uncontrollably.
Full-blown panic.
Total panic. As a reader, you're looking at this thinking, okay, a flap is bad, sure, but apocalyptic panic. Over a slap.
It looks like a massive overreaction through our modern lens, right? Where physical violence, while terrible, is a known variable. It happens.
Right, we can process it.
But you have to view this through the architecture of 2148. Drew isn't sobbing because of the physical pain inflicted on Ayers. Drew is screaming because Trace just broke the simulation.
Broke the simulation.
Yes. In a world where your entire sanity relies on the seamless, uninterrupted functioning of the rules, an act of unpredictable violence, what they actually call a BADS, is an existential threat.
So it's not about the pain, it's about the rule being broken.
Exactly. The social contract didn't just bend. It completely evaporated in front of their eyes. Trace proved that the rules can be broken, which means their safety is a total lie.
Wow. And the panic immediately gives way to a chilling, militarized response that shows exactly how this society deals with a glitch in the matrix.
And is terrifying.
Ayers pulls out a fancy bag phone that Ivy crafted and dials 91111.
Notice the subtle escalation there, 5 digits instead of 3.
Oh, good catch. What does that mean?
It signifies a bureaucracy that has metastasized way beyond our current emergency systems.
So the operator answers, and Ayers reports the BADS, explicitly identifying tracer of the Trace and Drew Together group. The response time is staggering.
It's immediate.
Within 2 minutes, these enforcers, identified only as troopsters, arrive on the scene. And they don't walk, mind you. They arrive chanting, "Hut, hut, hut."
The troopsters are basically the immune system of this society. They don't ask for context. They don't interview witnesses to see what happened.
No questions asked.
Right. Their purpose is solely to excise the infected tissue.
If we look at how communities police themselves today, take an extreme homeowners association, for example.
Oh boy, HOAs.
Right. You paint your front door the wrong shade of beige, someone reports you, and the HOA fines you to enforce conformity.
A financial slap on the wrist.
Exactly. This society in 2148 takes that exact same human impulse for behavioral control, but instead of issuing a fine, the HOA sends a literal SWAT team to vanish you into the abyss.
It's horrifying.
Ayers literally just points a finger at Trace, and the troopsters physically haul Trace away.
Following that HOA analogy to its logical extreme, the truly terrifying element here is the total absence of due process. There is no trial, there is no mediation, no rehabilitation whatsoever.
It's gone.
Yeah, because these beings are not considered persons, they are merely interchangeable components in a larger social machine.
So they don't have human rights.
Exactly. You don't put a broken gear on trial, you just discard it and grab a spare from the toolbox.
And the text confirms that brutal reality the very next morning. So Ayers and Ivy spend the entire night comforting Drew, who is just a shell of a being at this point.
Traumatized.
Totally traumatized. Then the phone rings. Ayers answers, and the authorities deliver this bone-chilling update. They say, "Tracer, we be of done today. 6.
Done today. Listen to that phrase. It is the bureaucratic language of disposal.
It's so clinical.
Trace hasn't been imprisoned, Trace has been deleted.
Drew, still crying, hears this and simply asks for a name. Ayers looks at Drew and says, Izzy.
And that single word, to me, is the most devastating moment in the entire chapter.
Because it proves they're replaceable.
Exactly. The instant Trace is thrown into the incinerator, Drew is assigned a replacement part. Izzy. The Together group must be maintained at all costs because it is the foundational building block of the state.
The unit matters, the individual doesn't.
Yes. The individual components within that group are entirely irrelevant. Trace is gone. Insert Izzy. The machine just grinds on without skipping a beat.
So what does this all mean for us? When we set out to decode this bizarre world, we uncovered a profound and honestly agonizing paradox.
A massive contradiction.
Right. On one hand, you have a society that grants you the absolute godlike freedom to choose your physical anatomy on a whim. Like, you can be whatever biological combination you desire on any given Tuesday.
Total physical autonomy.
But on the other hand, you have zero freedom over your fate. Your mind, your vocabulary, and your behavior belong entirely to an unforgiving state.
It really forces us to confront the illusion of choice. The state gamifies the flesh.
Right, they distract them with the physical stuff.
Exactly. They give you a biological Mr. Potato Head to play with, occupying your attention with endless physical permutations
No.
to distract you from the reality that they have completely enslaved your mind.
Which leaves us with a final, really unsettling question for you to mull over long after the steep dive ends.
It's a tough one to think about.
It is. If you strip away a person's inherent identity, reduce their language to childlike catchphrases, and enforce a social conformity so rigid that any deviation results in instant erasure and replacement with a new part named Izzy, does genuine connection actually exist in this world?
That's the million-dollar question.
Are Ayers and Ivy genuinely in love, experiencing true intimacy during those happy, better kisses? Or are they all just playing a desperate, constant game of dress-up, wearing borrowed organs and reciting state-approved mantras, just to avoid facing the terrifying reality that they aren't persons anymore?
It really suggests that love in 2148 might just be a survival mechanism. A way to hold on to the person next to you so the troopsters don't take you away.
The next time you wake up, look in the mirror, and maybe feel a little exhausted by the burden of figuring out who you are today, just be glad the person looking back at you is still allowed to be a person. And that you don't have to check the rules just to exist.